Does it make sense to have a selectorized machine in your home gym dedicated to lateral raises and chest flies? What about a plate-loaded attachment that mounts to your power rack? In this video, I'll test both the Temple of Gainz Multiflight and the Bells of Steel Shoulder Boulder at Home Gym Con 2025, and I compare them to each other as well as to a couple of new products that I also saw while I was at Home Gym Con.
So I'm here at the Temple of Gainz booth with
Yoni, owner of Temple of Gainz. Yes, owner, founder, yes, sir.
And he's going to show me the Multiflight, which I've heard a lot about.
Yeah.
So just tell me a little bit about this.
Sure.
This is for delts, chest.
Yeah, so basically it's a lateral raise machine. You have two dials and they work independent of each other or together. 100 kilogram, 220 pound weight stack, and on a hydraulic sliding assembly. So very easy, very heavy sled, but with the hydraulic, easy to adjust up and down.
Yeah.
It's got 15 start-stop points. So I'll walk you through some like the more popular exercises.
Like the numbers.
Yeah, because it's essentially just like a rotating cam with handles, there's a lot you can do with it, right? So the most obvious, it's kind of where I like to have it right here at 10, is to give it a little bit of pre-stretch. Now what we did with version 2, the major differences are the dials have stop points all the way around. That's great because if you want something with a lot of pre-stretch, you can start all the way, like I'm getting resistance all the way through here. Like if I were to do a unilateral, I could start, that's something you just can't get with like a dumbbell or a cable. You can, but you kind of have to change your positioning and the cable, etc.
So hits your body.
Yeah, it's a bit, you can't get that kind of range of motion bilaterally, but what I can do is just put, I don't look at the numbers too much. I just kind of find where they're exactly the same. And I've got a nice amount of pre-stretch.
Yeah.
And it can perform a nice lateral raise. And what's nice about it is it's a very linear resistance curve. So versus a dumbbell or a cable at certain angles, you're getting tension all the way through. Doesn't take a lot of weight on the lateral raise. So you could do that and put one of them, I call this neutral, putting it back in 6.
Okay.
You could hold onto the handle. And the more you bend over, obviously you're starting to hit more rear delt. And if you want, we can even slide the assembly down and then really just focus on like you put your head on the pad, like a rear delt movement.
Yeah.
And every one of those could be unilateral or bilateral. So just a neat way to train shoulders. Another really nice shoulder movement, obviously, is a front raise. They say to line this up with your shoulder. I like it a little bit lower, just gives me a little bit more flexibility. And you could do a front raise on either side. Obviously, you can't do both at the same time. But what I also like to do is I have these $5 pool noodles I get on Amazon, and I put them here, and I could take my grip out of it completely. So you're just literally just pushing against this, no grip.
That's cool.
As nice as the knurled handles are, this just feels really good.
Yeah.
So front raises. Then the other like main movements are chest flies. So chest flies want to go a little bit higher in weight, obviously. And you could really, I've seen people put it all the way up and kind of get like a decline. I'll leave it here, maybe go a little higher. And it's numbered on the side, so once you find a position you like, you could just kind of remember all your settings. So you could start this with a lot of pre-stretch. And now you can get a nice big chest fly movement.
Yeah.
And you could do that at different heights, obviously. So I kind of like it higher here. But you can obviously do like a head supported, chest fly like this. And it really hits. Like it seems like an afterthought, but it actually feels really nice. Yeah. The last kind of advertised use of the machine is a unilateral lat pullover. So I could actually get it all the way around to the other side. I'm gonna bring this up a bit, and I could do a standing lat pullover. Just kind of an option, right? So a bunch of options. Then today, I was like, how am I going to get a little pump before the show? And I tried this.
Really?
I wouldn't say it's what the machine is designed for, but just kind of part of, if you figure something out, go for it. You can get a nice little, almost like a, I don't have quite the guns you do, but a nice little bicep machine. You know, you kind of find that angle where it's moving, and because these pivot forward and backwards, you get like a nice feel here.
Cool.
And
I'd love to try.
I'll let you do it. Let me just show you the last one that I thought about today.
Oh yeah.
You do kind of a like a tricep extension.
Okay.
Unilateral, of course. So these all feel really nice. Not really what the machine is designed for. I've also seen people do.
That's half the fun. Find new ways to use.
Here's something else that someone recommended to me that I tried today for the first time. And then I'll get out of your way. But using this as a, like a multi-hip.
Oh wow. Yeah.
You could go both directions, right? So you do have this handle in the way. You could kind of move it out. But
that's cool because I've seen those multi-hip machines. That's pretty much what they look exactly.
You know, they do.
They got the round cam.
Those will have one cam, one arm. Usually have handles here.
Yeah.
So you know, if you wanted to mod it or something, but just 2 circular dials, the sky's the limit. It does have kind of the advertised uses, but that's all it. Go for it.
Yeah. Let's see.
I will say it takes very little weight to get a good lateral raise feel.
Okay. So
how are you?
I want more stretch. Just put it in a little.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. Put it on 1 here. Okay. All right. We're gonna have to go off here. Oh.
So before switching weights, I tell everyone just put it in neutral. Right?
Oh, gotcha.
And I go 6 neutral,
Gotcha.
Because what's happening is it doesn't have a counterbalance on the dial, which I actually prefer, but it requires putting this back because the weight of the handle at the lower weights is going to start kind of already pulling it.
Yeah, so if you have tension on it, then pulling on the plates,
I say put it in neutral, put it in 6 and 6, and then you can adjust the weight and then adjust the dial.
Okay, so
right there you saw one of the drawbacks of this design, which is that to get tension at the bottom when doing lateral raises, I have to set up the handles outside of that neutral position that Yoni was telling me about. And then the weight of the handles pulls up on the weight stack at the start, or as soon as I let go, making it difficult to change the weight without resetting it back to that neutral spot. So that would be an annoying thing to deal with during drop sets. But also at the same time, you could just push down on the top plate with one hand while you move the selector pin with the other hand. So really, I don't think it's a huge issue. It's just something to be aware of. Now, if you look at the shape of the cams that the cables wrap around, they're just circles as opposed to any kind of a spiral shape. That means that the resistance profile is basically just a flat line. It's consistent all the way through the movement. There's benefits and drawbacks to that. The benefit is that it makes the machine more versatile and usable for different exercises, because regardless of the starting position of the arms, regardless of which direction you're moving the arms, you know you're always going to feel the same weight, and it's not going to change throughout the range of motion. And that's how this machine can work for both lateral raises and chest flies, even though you're moving your arms in opposite directions. But of course, the drawback to circular cams is that the machine is not fine-tuned to any particular exercise to get the resistance profile just perfect for that one movement. That would be possible if you had a single-use lateral raise machine, for example, with a cam that was wider at the start and got narrower, loading the bottom heavier, dropping off towards the top. But if the cams on this machine were shaped like that, then you would be getting the opposite effect when you go to do flies. So the circular cam is a compromise to allow for more versatility in the machine. As far as how the exercises felt, I thought they were both pretty good. Definitely better than dumbbell lateral raises and dumbbell flies, at least in my opinion. The resistance profile might not be perfect, but it's definitely much better than what you get with a dumbbell lateral raise where there's no resistance at the bottom. And for flies, well, some would argue that dumbbell flies already have an ideal lengthened biased resistance profile. I personally still don't love them because of the instability as you approach failure and the complete drop off to zero resistance at the top if you're using a full range of motion. It just doesn't feel great to me. Comparing to cables is a little different because I do think I can get a better resistance profile and overall feel with some of the cable lateral raise variations that I've done. But for cable flies, it's a little more equal with maybe a slight edge to the Multiflight machine because of the added stability that you get with the handles when you're really grinding to failure on those last reps. One other small benefit I wanted to point out is that because the machine magnifies your leverage so much, each plate is actually a much smaller percentage of your overall total load that you're lifting. So you just get more increments to progressively overload. It's like the difference between adding 10 pounds on a bench press versus adding 10 pounds on a curl. The biggest attraction for this machine in my mind would be the convenience factor. Just being able to walk up to it and bang out a set at any time would be nice for someone who wants to get a lot of shoulder and chest volume with minimal setup. And the ability to do drop sets with the selectorized stack adds a lot to that time efficiency as well. Like any standalone machine, however, you have to pay for that convenience with not only money, but also space. While it doesn't have a huge footprint, it's not exactly small either. So as always, the value proposition is going to be very dependent on your space and your budget. Here we have the Bells of Steel shoulder boulder, which is a plate-loaded rack attachment that does the same basic functions as a Multiflight machine. As a rack attachment, the biggest points in its favor are that it takes up much less space compared to a dedicated machine, and it's much less expensive. Of course, being plate-loaded, you lose the convenience of the selectorized weight stack, and the resistance will vary through the range of motion as the angle of the weight arm changes. Now, it does have full 360-degree sundial adjustments on the arms, so you can position them differently relative to the weight horns, depending on the exercise and what angle you want the arms to start at. This allows you to modify the resistance profile somewhat, although there are some limitations to how far you can take that, and you'll see what I mean later in the video. Here you can see what it's like moving this attachment around. It's not very difficult. There's a threaded stud that goes through the holes on the upright, and then a large nut that can be tightened down by hand to secure it tightly to the rack.
All right, so what's your name?
My name's Christian.
Christian here at Bells of Steel.
Yep.
And this is is it the shoulder boulder or boulder shoulder?
Yeah, it's the boulder shoulder.
Boulder shoulder, okay.
So basically what you want to do here is like you have all these different points of adjustment here. I like it because you can change how much the angle feels.
Yeah, the resistance curve.
Exactly, the resistance curve. So if you started from there, right, like it's obviously going to be a lot easier than starting it somewhere over here. And the range of motion is quite good. Like you won't really max it out as well.
Nice.
And then it's also like people like to pull in a bench and do flies, things like that.
Yeah, so you would lay down, like have a bench here and then like lay down and
exactly
lower
like this. Or you can even do it, you know, laying forward like this and do some flies like that.
Yeah, that's cool with the rotary adjustment. So you put it at any angle. Probably can't load this up very heavy, right?
It'll probably do a lot, honestly, with a light weight, yeah.
Let me see. I do want to try though, like, see how like lengthened bias I can.
How it feels different, yeah.
Kind of get it. Oh, that gets light at the
top. A little too far, yeah.
Okay, so right there you saw the limitation with plate-loaded rotary machines like this. If you try to set the weight arm parallel to the floor to make it hardest in the start position, it will end up going past vertical at the top and wanting to flip over in the opposite direction. The same thing happens on plate-loaded leg extension machines if you try to make them fully lengthened biased. So this ends up being a compromise where you can have more resistance at the bottom than you would with a dumbbell, but it will still increase in the middle up to the maximum resistance point where the weight arm is parallel to the floor, and then it will drop off towards the top.
maybe like kind of that angle.
There you go,
maybe.
try it like that, yeah. Oh, that one's a little too high now.
I think this is like feels really balanced. This
one's too far. Let's go there. Good. Yeah.
About the same. One more.
Yeah, I guess you could pull the handles forward then. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
And you can see where it's at. One more back. There you go.
Okay. All right. Let's see what I can do here. Can you go a little?
What do you think?
Need to go a little heavier though. All right. So we got
20 pounds per side?
Yeah, 20 on each side. It's 40 total. Oh yeah.
So for this actual work set that I'm doing here, I have it set up in the more balanced way that I was describing earlier. And I'll say that it still feels good and effective. And I do think it's a better exercise than dumbbell lateral raises. Compared to the Temple of Gainz Multiflight with the circular cams, from what I remember, they didn't feel drastically different from each other in terms of the resistance profile. The shoulder boulder has varying resistance, but it's fairly balanced. And honestly, watching the video now, I think I could have set it up to be even a bit heavier in the bottom, and that would have made it more balanced overall than how I did actually set it up. The Temple of Gainz has that constant level of resistance all the way through the range of motion, but realistically, I don't think you would notice a difference in actual results using one or the other. Of course, the dedicated multi-flight machine feels much higher quality in terms of fit and finish, and it has tighter tolerances to where everything moves smoothly. There's no excess play in the handles and pop pins, and you do feel some of that to a certain extent on the shoulder boulder. Although I do think it's acceptable when you consider the price point that it's at.
Do you know if, I'm sure people have played around with this, do you know if anyone's ever hooked it to the cables? Yeah.
I've been thinking about it myself. I haven't tried it personally, so I can't say, but I think it should work if you just put ankle cuffs on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because with the dual cables, you could have the trolley, and just put it right out to the sides. Yeah, it should work.
100%. You can mess around and do like some kind of rows as well with it,
I've been.
You have to put it a bit lower. Or bicep curls.
Yeah, I before I went and grabbed you, I moved this up one. I think it would have been a little better. I should have left it where it was.
Oh, really?
I think because leaning forward a little bit feels a little bit better to me.
Yeah.
But I put it like right up here with my shoulder, and then I was standing up.
Yeah, it should be here with the shoulder, so maybe it is a little high.
Yeah, I think I moved it up a notch, but I should have left it where it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels good. I like stuff like this where you can just configure it 100 different ways and tinker with it and play.
Me too, man.
That's fun.
Upon further inspection, I'm not sure whether this unit would work with the Bells of Steel cable towers, at least not right out of the box. If you look at this image from their website, you can see how the square metal tubing that supports the arms comes out to the side and overlaps with the center hole for the hitch pins. On the original Bells of Steel cable towers, the cables run down the side of the uprights, right through the center. So if you put this attachment on the front of the tower, those square tubes would be pressing back against the cables, pushing them out of their normal straight path. And once you load up some weight, there would be a lot of rubbing and friction. It might be possible to put a spacer over the stud so that the shoulder boulder doesn't insert all the way. Maybe that could leave just enough room for the cables. But I'm not sure if that would leave enough thread exposed on the other side to still be able to tighten it down securely. I will say that once there is tension on the cable, it lines up farther toward the back of the holes, but it still seems like it would be a very tight fit and there'd probably be some cable rubbing going on there. If you had the shoulder boulder mounted above the cable trolley, which is what you would need to do for lateral raises or doing chest flies lying on a bench. You could attach the cables from above and do leaning forward chest flies like I did on the Temple of Gainz Multiflight, but that's just one movement and there's no head pad to brace against. On their website, Bells of Steel does have an image of the shoulder boulder mounted on the cable tower, but it's just being used in the normal plate-loaded configuration. So if anyone knows for sure or has done this, please post in the comments. Now, Bell's also had a new 3x3 version of the cable tower on display at Home Gym Con, but that one also seems like it would have even more problems with the shoulder boulder. And that's because the cables run down the front of the tower. Even if you manage to maneuver both sides of the shoulder boulder through the cables to mount it on the tower with the cables in front of it, you'd still have the problem of the cables rubbing on the handle that sticks out of the front of the shoulder boulder. Another similar attachment that I saw at Home Gym Con was from Fringe Sport, and it's called the Dragonfly. I didn't manage to get any video of this, so I have to give credit to Kinzi at Capex Home Gym Lab because she took this home from the convention to do a review, and I just shamelessly screenshotted her video and crudely cut out the Dragonfly for this image here. Thanks, Kinzi. I'll put a link to her video in the description. Definitely check it out if you want to know more about this attachment. Anyway, to be clear, this was a prototype, so it could change significantly before coming to market. But the unique thing about this one is that there are no separate weight arms like on the shoulder boulder that you would adjust relative to the handles. Instead, it has these two sets of weight horns on each handle, one in line with the grip, and another that is offset to the side with a few different angle adjustments that you can pick from. Depending on the angle of the offset weight horn and how you distribute the weight between the two horns, you can modify the resistance profile of the exercise. When it comes to mounting this on a cable tower, you would run into the same issues as the shoulder boulder, actually worse because the brackets are welded more toward the back of the unit, so there would really be no chance of getting the cables not to rub on them. Of course, the other issue is that this has a 1-inch mounting peg, so it wouldn't fit on the original Bells of Steel cable tower anyway, unless Fringe is planning on making a 5/8 version. For the 3x3 Bells tower, it seems like it would work if you were able to snake the unit in behind the cables on the front of the tower. If you could get it in place, then the vertical handle should not interfere with them during operation, like the horizontal handle on the shoulder boulder seemingly would. This would actually be easier to do on the GetRx to RX3 tower, because the top pulleys are mounted in front of the upright, so there would be more space behind the cables to get the Dragonfly in position. It would still probably be fairly cumbersome though, given the awkward shape of the attachment and having to hold it with one hand while you pull the cables out of the way with the other hand. Interestingly, the Dragonfly actually has eye bolts near the inner weight horns to allow for cable attachment. But I'm not aware of any dual cable tower on the market currently that it would mount to easily without the hassles I just mentioned. This makes me wonder if Fringe is working on their own version of a cable tower that would work more seamlessly with the Dragonfly, but so far I haven't heard anything about that. Finally, there was one other piece of equipment in this category at Home Gym Con, which was this piece from Gentleman's Fitness Club. They're a Japanese company that is currently looking for a US distributor. I briefly checked out their products at Home Gym Con, but I didn't get any video. The key difference with their stuff is that it's not designed to mount on your existing power rack, but rather they have their own ecosystem of interchangeable attachments that can be mounted to a standalone base, including a leg developer attachment, belt squat, preacher curl, and a seal row pad. One thing that stood out to me about this one was that everything was numbered so you could easily get both sides set up the same way, which was something that I struggled with a bit when I was using the Boulder shoulder. And that, of course, also allows you to easily replicate the same settings the next time you work out and make sure you're doing the same exercise in your training program every time. Another nice feature is that you can have the handles locked in at a fixed angle or let them move freely. And I should have mentioned before that this is also possible with the Dragonfly, but the Boulder shoulder is free movement only and doesn't have any locking ability on the handles. The GFC unit also allows you to adjust the length of the arms, which I think is really cool because ideally you would want the pivot point to line up with your shoulder joint, and then it seems like it would be better to adjust the arm length to wherever your hands fall naturally compared to just relying on the handles to angle up to your hands to compensate for that distance. Of course, this one is definitely not going to mount to any cable towers because it's not designed to attach to an upright from the front. It actually slides over the square post from the top. However, since it's a freestanding unit, it seems like it would be pretty easy to just position it right in front of the cable tower and then attach the cables to the weight horns. And in that way, you would bypass all of the issues that I mentioned before with mounting to the front of the cable tower upright and having the cables get in the way. I'd have to try it to be sure, but the good news is I'm going to be able to do that very soon because Gentleman's Fitness Club has sent me one and it should be here in a few days. I'm going to test it out thoroughly and do a full review, so look for that to be coming out hopefully sometime toward the end of the month. Okay, so this video has been a little uneven and disjointed, and I apologize for not getting full video coverage of all of these pieces while I was at Home Gym Con. I feel like I need to wrap this up with some kind of conclusion though, so I'm going to give it a shot. Please bear with me. Okay, do you need these machines to grow your pecs and delts? No, you do not. Can you just do lateral raises and flies with dumbbells? Yes, and you can get your pecs and delts jacked doing so. People have been doing that for decades. Does that mean that these machines have no value? Absolutely not. By shifting the resistance profile and adding stability, they provide what many people find to be superior versions of those exercises in terms of feeling, mind-muscle connection, and per-set stimulus. If you don't find that to be true for you personally, that's fine. None of these are for you, and you probably didn't need to watch this far into the video. Just keep using your dumbbells. They're a great tool, and if they feel better to you and you're getting good results, then there's no reason to go and buy something new. Are these better than cable variations of the same exercises? It depends on the criteria. I'm pretty convinced at this point that producing high tension at long muscle lengths and matching the resistance profile of an exercise to the strength curve are both important if you want to maximize the stimulus of a single set. In that regard, I think there are some great cable movements that allow you to do that better, and some of those are staples in my training. However, the best versions of these often require more setup or they need to be done unilaterally, both of which take time, and some people just find setup and doing things unilaterally to be quite annoying. Also, if you want that feeling of being locked into a set path that lets you grind harder as you approach failure, then you don't get that with cables. That's a difference I notice mostly with chest flies, where I start shaking quite a bit at the end of a set. Just look at this comparison of my last rep grind doing cable flies at the GetRx booth versus the same thing on the Temple of Gainz Multiflight. The speed of the last rep is very similar in each, but with the added stability of the arms, I can complete the rep smoothly while remaining focused on simply squeezing my pecs. To be clear, I don't think there would be some huge difference in results, but if two exercises are both effective, then the fact that one of them feels better or is more enjoyable is reason enough to pick that one, especially because you're more likely to be consistent with doing it long term and actually get the gains that you're looking for. So if you made it this far and you're still interested in one of these, I'll give you my high-level comparison. The Temple of Gainz Multiflight is for someone who likes these movements, has plenty of space in their gym for a dedicated machine, and is willing to pay for the luxury of having a commercial quality machine with a selectorized stack that is ready to go at all times with no setup other than changing between exercises. Convenience is a huge factor for many people, myself included, so I can see this machine being very appealing for bodybuilding-focused home gym owners who are able to afford it. The Shoulder Boulder and the Dragonfly are for people who don't have either the space or budget for a dedicated machine and are willing to go through the extra time of setting up the attachment on the rack and loading plates. As for the different methods of adjustment and modifying the resistance profile, I would need to have more time with both of them to figure out which one I like better. I'm not sure there's a clear winner, and the Dragonfly is still a prototype, so lots of things could change anyway. The Gentleman's Fitness Club pec fly and lateral raise attachment is in some ways an in-between option. If you have the room for it, you could leave it set up on the base as a permanent station in your gym and use it as a dedicated machine. Or you could go deeper into their ecosystem with the other attachments and swap them out as needed. But either way, you wouldn't take up any space on your main rack. So if you want to get some extra volume for your delts between sets of squats, for example, it would be easily doable. Of course, even if you do use it as a standalone machine, it's limited compared to the Temple of Gainz because it's still plate loaded, and you would need to set up a bench to do chest flies. The rotary design of the GFC unit is fundamentally the same as bells of steel, but I think having everything numbered along with the adjustable arm length and option to lock the handles at a fixed angle are really nice upgrades in adjustability. One place the shoulder Boulder might have it beat, however, is that it allows full 360-degree adjustment of the handle relative to the weight horn. I'm always in favor of more adjustability where possible, but on the other hand, when I use the shoulder Boulder, I found that some of those additional adjustment holes weren't practical to use because of the weight arm passing vertical and wanting to flip over, as I showed previously in the video. So in practice, the fewer adjustment holes might not be missed. All right, I think I'll leave it there for now. I'm not going to go into any more detailed comparisons or try to name a clear winner when my hands-on experience has been so limited. But if you're in the market for one of these machines/attachments, then hopefully this video is helpful and you can draw your own conclusions based on your preferences and your situation. Once again, I will be getting the Gentleman's Fitness Club unit very soon for a review, so keep an eye out for that video coming up in the near future.